portion of Daytime Tri-Cities is sponsored by Herndon, Coleman, Braiding, and McKee. Probate is a word that tends to pop up when someone near to us passes away, but what exactly is probate? Here with the answers surrounding the probate process is Akiah Highsmith with Herndon, Braiding, Coleman, and McKee. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you for having me.
The easiest question, what is probate?
All right, so probate is just a legal term that describes the process of opening up an estate after someone passes away. So we're going to open up the estate, pay off any outstanding debts, and then distribute the remaining property to their heirs.
And how is that property distributed?
Well, if someone passes away with a will, we would call that a intestate estate, and their property will be distributed according to their will, subject to a few limitations.
And I know a lot of folks out there may not have a will. What happens if they don't have a will?
Right. If they don't have a will, we would call that an intestate estate, and then that property distribution is governed by a statute. So it depends on what relatives they have living when they pass away. We'll look to see if they were married, if they had children or other living relatives, and depending on what we find, it determines who that property goes to and how it's distributed.
And how does an attorney figure into this process?
Well, an attorney can really help you out throughout the entire process. We'll prepare and file all the necessary documents to open up the estate. We will notify any creditors that the estate is entering into probate, and then we'll assist in distributing the assets. One example of that is we would prepare deeds for any real estate that may be transferred or inherited.
It sounds like an attorney can really help this process go through to fruition.
Absolutely. There's a lot of deadlines and steps that have to be complied with, and we can make sure that you're following up with all of those things that you need to. Other things that we can assist with is if there are any outstanding debts, we can negotiate to try and get a lower payment for perhaps an outstanding credit card or a TennCare, if TennCare had paid benefits for them, try and get that to be a lower amount.
And there's steps to this process. Talk to us about the steps that you have to go through in this process.
Yes, there's several steps. So initially it's just filing the necessary paperwork, and then at that point notice is given to any creditors. If you know the creditors, they have to be directly notified, and then we actually will do a publication in the newspaper for any unknown creditors. Then once they're satisfied, we will distribute the remaining assets to the heirs.
How long can this process take?
Unfortunately, this process can take years and years depending on if the estate's contested. Sometimes relatives won't agree about who is the heirs or who's to inherit what. This happens especially if there isn't a will, or if there's a will contest. There's some dispute over maybe there's multiple wills and which one was the last one, if there's some dispute about that.
And you definitely, I think I know the answer to this question, but you encourage people to have that will before they pass on.
Absolutely. It really just makes the entire process a lot easier. And when we're talking about people that are already dealing with a tough situation, they're grieving, we don't want to make that process any more difficult or painful.
And this is a process, if someone is out there watching right now, you all would love to hear from them to help, if someone does need a will, if they're looking into probate, you would love to hear from them to help them along in this process.
Certainly. Today we've just talked about some general information, and every person's situation is unique, and so I would encourage anyone that needs any help, whether it be with getting a will or power of attorney documents like that for the estate planning, or if they have had a loved one that's passed away and are looking at going into probate, we would love to give them a consultation and talk about their specific situation.
Something we all have got to deal with at some point in our life.
Unfortunately, but that's true.
All right. Akiah Highsmith, we appreciate you being here today. Folks, if you have questions, and I'm sure you have some, check out Herndon, Coleman, Braiding, and McKee right here in Johnson City. We've got their number, we've got their website right there on the screen. The preceding portion of Daytime Tri-Cities was sponsored by Herndon, Coleman, Braiding, and McKee.